Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a while since we got on IG Live, and today we'll have a really interesting topic to talk to you guys about. 1 in 4 adults is walking around with fatty liver, and most have no idea how much it can affect their energy, digestion, and long-term health. Now, when you combine fatty liver disease with losing your gallbladder, the very organ that helps break down fats, you are got a whole new set of challenges to navigate. Suddenly, your body has to relearn how to handle fats, which can make things feel even more complicated. Living with fatty liver disease with no gallbladder can feel frustrating, but the good news is that you have more control than what you think. And that's why we're so glad to chat on IG Live today with Lisa Winbourn, a functional nutritionist with a Bachelor of Science in Biochemistry. During this live, we are going to discuss why it's hard to lose weight with fatty liver disease and no gallbladder, tips to improve digestion, and why protein is so important, and much more. I saw Lisa. Hello, hi Lisa.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for
Thank
having
you
me
so much.
on.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Yes, you're welcome. I'm excited to be here.
Tell us, before we start, tell us a little bit about yourself, about how you became a functional nutritionist.
Yeah, okay, I'll try to make it short. Well, I've always been interested in nutrition. Like even in high school, I was reading books and I've experimented with like so many different nutrition. And so I wanted to go into nutrition, but then I ended up going into chemistry first because I wanted like a deeper background. And then I was going to get my master's in nutrition. But then I got married and I had kids and kind of put that on hold for a little while. And I went to work for a pharmaceutical company and just kind of like got on cruise control and just raising my family, working part time for this company. And then I started getting just like really unhappy with that. And I started like really having my own health issues and just like feeling really sluggish, tired. Like I just wasn't happy with where I was in my life. And so I started digging into some different things. And then that led me to enroll in functional nutrition. And then in my functional nutrition class, I started learning about the liver and bile, and I was literally blown away by how cool it was. Like I just totally geeked out. And then I started sharing about that on my social media, and so many people started telling me, sending me messages that they lost their gallbladder, that they had gallstones, like how did they resolve it? And they were having all these health problems. And so I just started digging into that because I was getting so many questions about it. And then that led me, so I kind of like went backwards. So we had the symptoms of, no gallbladder. That kind of like led me to the path of fatty liver. And then one step beyond that is the MTHFR variation, which can contribute to all of this. So, but I also feel like I was kind of guided to it because then I realized that I was also struggling with fatty liver. My in my family, a lot of people had lost their gallbladders. There was a lot of symptoms of MTHFR, so like I was led to it almost because I realized that I really need to work on my own liver and like take a different path so I didn't get gallstones.
Oh, okay. You like literally answered my two other questions that
Oh,
we're about to I'm about to ask you, which is really awesome because you mentioned like a no gallbladder, you mentioned a fatty liver, you mentioned MTHFR. So how are all these connected?
yes, it's so fascinating. So people get gallstones for a number of reasons, um, but a lot of it has to do with the liver not being able to make good quality bile or not detoxify or make another compound that makes bile. So I mean, so I could go kind of top level is there's two different kinds of fatty liver. One is where people have a genetic disorder. Well, not, it's not a disorder. It's just a genetic variation where they're not making good quality bile. And one is where they're exposed to a lot of toxins in their life. And this could be birth control. Birth control is a big one, like medications, like SSRIs, things like that, or like alcohol or foods, um, are damaging the liver. So we get this liver damage, and then the liver isn't able to do its job properly, and the liver has so many different functions. And then things just kind of start to fall apart a little bit. Your liver is like your filter. It's like a car filter, which we change like, every year or whatever. We change our car filter, our house filter. We change that very often, but we don't think about helping our bodies filter. And it's just like such an overlooked thing. We just think we can put anything in our body and our body will handle it. We don't really realize that there's an organ that has to clean our blood. And then if we are taking in so many toxins, that those toxins kind of start to damage the liver. If the liver can't keep up with it, then the liver starts making poor quality bile. That bile gets thick and sludgy. It can turn into gallstones. And then, people can live with gallstones for a while before they have an attack. And so an attack happens suddenly, but it's really been like probably a decade or more of developing these gallstones. And then the question was, how is the liver connected to the gallbladder? And then did you also want to know about the MTHFR? Do you want to talk about that later?
All of the above. Okay, that's
Okay.
like talk about MTHFR, and also I want to talk about fatty liver disease too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, MTHFR variations are really common, and don't be afraid by the acronym of it, because it stands for methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. And basically, it's like a little worker in the liver. I'm just breaking this down for your audience to help them understand, because it sounds complicated and overwhelming, yet it's really not. But enzymes are little workers. And so just imagine them they take something and then they convert it into something else. They have little jobs to do in the liver. And that's kind of what the MTHFR does. It activates a certain B vitamin. And then that B vitamin helps with so many different things in the liver. So 1 in 2, it's about 50% of the population has an MTHFR variation. So it's really common. Now, not everyone's going to experience problems with it. It just depends on your environment and what you're exposed to. But it's really common. And what can happen is MTHFR is involved in making some other enzymes that help with detox, like glutathione. So people with an MTHFR variation commonly struggle to detox. And I know this is getting like kind of complicated, because we can just kind of go outward. Like the simplest version is MTHFR is involved in detox and making neurotransmitters and healing and repair. But it's involved in making these other enzymes that help with detox. And so if your MTHFR is sort of slow, you're going to get a buildup of toxins in your liver, which can damage it. And then that damage prevents the liver from doing its many, many jobs. So did that kind of give you a little bit of a top level understanding, or your audience, I should say?
Yes, it's perfect explanation. It's like so digestible. I love it.
Okay.
What about fatty liver disease? You mentioned like what is fatty liver disease? Like why is it so common?
Yeah, why is it so common? I know. Well, I think it's a combination of many things. So the liver needs a lot of nutrients in order to detoxify. So it cleans our blood. What it does is the blood comes into the liver, and then the liver transforms these toxins into something that is safe, that can go out either through your stool or through your urine. But there's often a 2-part process to detoxification. And the first step can actually make toxins more toxic and damaging. And then the second part makes them water soluble so they can leave your body. And so what happens is, if your liver doesn't have all the nutrients it needs to complete that first and second step, then you can get a buildup of these really damaging toxins. So these toxins basically damage the liver cells, which are called hepatocytes. And so that's one way that somebody can get a fatty liver. And so our diets are low in nutrients. We're not consuming like whole foods as much as we should. We're not getting the matrix of nutrients that we need from whole foods. And we're also taking in a lot of toxins. So we don't need to be afraid of toxins. Like, our body is fully capable of dealing with. We just need to really focus on supporting the way that our liver can detoxify. So that's one way you can get fatty liver. The other way is where there's another enzyme called PEMT, which makes something called phosphatidylcholine. And phosphatidylcholine is important because it helps your liver to package up protein and fats and scoot it out to the cells where the cells receive it and then they use it and they, do different things with it. But what happens if you don't have enough of this PEM or phosphatidylcholine, if your PEMT is slow, it has a variation, then these fat and protein blobs kind of fall apart and they stay in the liver. So that can cause another form of fatty liver. So there's kind of two ways to address fatty liver. One is to really focus on giving your liver the nutrients it needs, and the other is maybe making sure that your liver, you're supporting that enzyme, which you need lots of choline or even phosphatidylcholine to help your liver with that.
It makes sense to do both, right?
Yes, it makes sense to do both. And the MTHFR is also involved in that because I like to think of MTHFR, so it does something called methylation, and that's a single carbon atom with hydrogens. And that's kind of the way that our body like turns things on, things off. And I kind of think of it like a bucket brigade through your whole body. Like your whole body is passing this single carbon, like it's like we're passing this thing along, but the MTHFR acts like a bottleneck. And so the PEMT also needs those groups, but then if the MTHFR is slow, that's going to affect that other enzyme.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. Okay, I can see like why you like to geek out about it, and
Okay.
it's so interesting. So then, like, why it makes managing your health really difficult if you have fatty liver, which we heard about, like different ways of getting fatty liver, and then with no gallbladder.
Yeah. So the liver, it cleans your blood, and if your liver is sluggish, then you're going to get a buildup of toxins, and some of those are heavy metals. What your body does with toxins is it stores it in fatty tissues to protect you until it's like capable of, taking it back in. And some of those fatty tissues are like endocrine glands, like the thyroid. So it can actually end up you can build up some toxins in the thyroid. Also, if you're not cleaning your blood, you're having more inflammation. And what inflammation does is it fires up your immune system and just like your body kind of feels like it's unsafe. It feels like there's invaders. And then what can happen is you become less insulin sensitive. You might have more cravings. You're not getting glucose into the cells because there's inflammation. And all of these things impact metabolism. So then your metabolism feels like it's slower because inflammation's up, maybe your thyroid's not working as well, you have more cravings, you're eating more sugary foods. And so this is all contributing to weight gain because the liver is not functioning as well as it could. So those are just a couple of things. The other thing, the liver balances hormones. And so we are making hormones. We make cortisol, we make estrogen and progesterone, and the liver helps to keep those in a good range. But if your liver isn't functioning well, then your cortisol could stay high, which also has a negative effect on your metabolism. Your estrogen could be high compared to progesterone, which is going to have a negative impact on your metabolism. So those are some other ways that the liver is having a sluggish liver is going to impact metabolism and make it really hard to lose weight.
Oh my God. So then what are some like signs people should look out for if their body is, being sluggish and also not digesting fast well?
Yeah. So if you feel kind of bloated after eating, for me, my biggest signs were cracked heels, dry skin. If your blood work shows high liver enzymes, if you're waking up at 3 a.m. consistently every night, because the liver also helps to regulate blood sugar. So if your liver can't regulate blood sugar all night long, what can happen is you get a blood sugar dip, and then your body perceives that as a very dangerous thing. And so it will raise cortisol in order to raise your blood sugar. And it's actually the cortisol that wakes you up. And so if you're waking up every night at 3 a.m., cracked heels, maybe your eyes could be even a little bit yellow, or your skin could be yellow. That's kind of related to jaundice. Dry skin, you just feel sluggish, you're gaining weight around your tummy. So those are some signs, but the high liver enzymes would be the blood work clue, but a lot of times people can have a sluggish liver before their enzymes actually start to get out of range.
Yeah. So it's like really important to pay attention on your liver, not just like doing, because when people are trying to keep a healthy weight, they try like everything from like low calorie diet to like intermittent fasting and all of those. But you kind of need your liver to support you before you do anything, right?
Yeah, and that's really a good point that you brought up is then people try these diets that are even more restrictive. So when your liver is fatty, you almost need more food, not less, because you need to supply it with the nutrients and the energy it needs. And so a lot of these diets, so the liver can't function on ketones, it needs glucose. So one way or another, your liver is going to get glucose that it needs. So if you're eating like keto and you're not getting enough glucose, it's going to start breaking down your muscle, raise your cortisol, break down your muscle, which further can suppress your liver because now you've got more cortisol. Or these low calorie diets, it's just like further putting your body in survival mode, cutting out entire food groups. So these are absolutely the wrong approaches. I mean, you'll find that some people say that it worked for them and that was fine, but the method that I really encourage is small meals more frequently. So like 300 calories every 3 hours, protein rich, and no snacking, just small meals every 3 to 4 hours, because your liver can't really give you more. Like your body can't store more energy than those 300 or 400 calories. So you kind of have to think about your body on training wheels. Metabolism is on training wheels. So rather than restriction and intermittent fasting and keto and carnivore, like that might work well for men, and because they don't have the same chemistry as women do. And it might work well for people with healthy metabolisms, but if your liver is fatty and sluggish, you don't have a healthy metabolism.
I'm assuming that's kind of small meals. When I did nutrition, it's also recommended for like a bloating and gas.
Yeah, it helps. You mean small meals help to reduce bloating and gas?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because also, so if your liver is sluggish, and especially if you don't have a gallbladder, you might not be making enough bile to help digest the fats. So if you're eating a high fat keto meal or carnivore or something like that, and you're taking in a lot of fats, you don't have the detergent to break that down, and you can feel bloated. You can get pain on the right side, just like really sluggish. So yeah, that was a great point.
So small frequent meal is good for bloating and gas. Is there any other tips? Because I feel like bloating and gas is something people feel like immediate and then very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But seems to always like look for solutions for bloating
Yeah.
and gas.
So in my experience, bloating and gas is kind of related to you're under eating. So it's not that you can't digest the food, it's that you're not eating enough food to fuel your digestive system. And so your food is like not moving fast enough and it's fermenting and you're getting bloating. So if you're struggling with that, I would actually encourage you to drink a little bit of juice, because like that's quick energy, maybe half a cup of orange juice, which is high in folate, which helps your MTHFR, or, apple juice, cranberry juice, something like that. But you typically, like what I've found is that the bloating and gas is caused from under eating. And then also like you need to get the vegetables, like broccoli is really, really good. Anything with sulfur, so broccoli and onions and garlic and the cruciferous vegetables. But sometimes those fibers are difficult. So make sure you cook those. Like try to eat about 2 servings of those and cook them.
Wow, such good tips. Like, so why might some people without gallbladder also have loose stools? Like, what should they do?
Yeah. So loose stools. So there's kind of two paths. After you lose your gallbladder, you either have too much bile or not enough. So if you have too much bile, that could be causing loose stools. Or if you don't have enough, because like bile mixes with the food coming out of your stomach and it emulsifies it. So it turns it from acidic to neutral. And then when it emulsifies it, you get like a thicker chyme. It mixes with the chyme and it becomes like a thicker matter. But okay, so let's say you don't have a gallbladder. Instead of releasing bile with your meals, your bile is dripping constantly into your small intestine all day long. And so what happens is when you eat a big meal, you're only getting like a couple drips for that food rather than a giant squirt from your gallbladder. Or your bile has been dripping all day, and it's pooling up in your small intestine. And then when you're eating a meal, it's like it's too much. It's like you don't need that much because there's no control over how much you're getting. So it's a couple of different things. Some people need to stop eating trigger foods when they have loose stools. So like coffee, you might need to eat first and then drink your coffee. Or like if you're going to have a salad, because some of these bitter foods can trigger more bile release. So you might want to combine your salads with protein and carbohydrates. Or you might need to take a bile salt, which is supplemental bile. So everybody is kind of like, you kind of have to just experiment and find out what kind of a situation you have. Do you have too much bile or not enough?
Wow. So why do you recommend like adequate protein intake for people with fatty liver with no gallbladder?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because protein we think of, we're going to build muscle, but actually we need so much protein for building liver enzymes that helps to detoxify, for making neurotransmitters, for healing and repair. So protein, it's not just for muscles, it's actually really important to make glutathione, to make these enzymes in your liver that detoxify, even to make enzymes that help to break down your food. So we can't forget about all the other needs that we have for protein.
So how much protein should someone with fatty liver and no
Yeah.
gallbladder get? Like, and then also what's your favorite source of protein?
Yeah. Well, it depends on where people are at. So I would recommend like figuring out how much protein are you actually getting, and then trying to just increase it by one serving a day. So a lot of women are getting only like 10 grams per meal or less. Like they think they're eating a lot of protein, but they're really not. So like I recommend about 3/4 cup of lean protein 3 to 4 times a day. So that's like 100 to 125 grams, which can be, can be hard. You just have to like change your mindset about protein. So, like some of my favorite, well, I love animal protein. I was a vegetarian for a while, and I think that actually led to some of my problems is I wasn't getting enough protein. So, now I really encourage animal proteins because it's most bioavailable, most usable, and you can stay within a certain calorie range to get all that protein. So, lean proteins like chicken, steak, turkey, salmon are some of my favorites. I also like elk and lamb because, some pork, you have to be careful. Some people can tolerate pork, some people can't. And I think pork's just getting a little bit iffy. So I would just like stay away from pork if you're dealing with sluggish metabolism. Also scrambled eggs, like lean more toward like more egg whites and maybe a little bit of yolk so you get more protein. Protein powders are okay, maybe once a day if you have a smoothie and you're mixing it with other things like blueberries and maybe a little bit of spinach. And then, some people like cottage cheese, but I love animal proteins. And then for fish is really, really awesome because that provides selenium and iodine, which is also really important for your liver and metabolism.
Okay, we just touched on these two minerals. Are the selenium and iodine the most important minerals for people with this condition?
Well, they're really important for your thyroid. I would say that most people are very deficient. It's kind of up there with like most people are deficient in magnesium, vitamin D, and iodine. So I would say it is extremely important to get iodine because if that's helps to power your metabolism. And if you don't have enough, your body's going to start using other halogens to make thyroid hormone like chlorine and bromine and fluorine. And that just, it doesn't work. So a lot of people have a stuck liver because their thyroid doesn't have enough iodine. So once you like amp up your thyroid, then you amp up your liver, but you have to be careful with iodine because it's very powerful. And if you take in too much, what it's going to do is start like clearing house. It like basically comes in your body and starts like sweeping up all the toxins and sending them toward your liver. And then if your liver isn't supported enough to handle all that, then you'll get like a detox reaction. You'll get like a backlog, sick. You can get a headache, rashes, like flu-like symptoms. So with iodine, everybody needs it, but we have to be really careful how much we use.
Why do you warn sometimes that it's like our cell, not hormones, behind the low energy levels?
Yeah, like our cells rather than hormones. Well, I mean, I think everything really comes down to the health of our mitochondria and how well our mitochondria can turn energy into ATP, so glucose into ATP. And a lot of us have damaged mitochondria because of the toxic overload in our liver. So hormones are important. I don't think we should feel limited by our hormones, because I think a lot of us want to say that, oh, like I'm in perimenopause and or like my hormones are off. And that is true. We can't blame it on our hormones though. I would say we really need to support our nervous system, and then that impacts the health of our hormones, the health of our liver. So yeah, just mitochondria, that's they're just these little organelles, and they're very sensitive to stress and damage. And if we've got like a lot of junk in our cells, then those mitochondria can't work very well.
Wow, this is like so much information, and I could just be like, no, it's good because I think that's actually where getting my next question is like, how can someone work with you? Because like from like this interview, I just feel like it really requires like personalized approach, right?
Yeah.
For someone, because your situation will be different. Something causing you have bloat, or if you have MTHFR genes versus not, like, and then also like what's the exact causes of your fatty liver. There's so many variations,
Yeah.
so it's like really, really important to work with someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, it is. It's important not to just go and try to DIY your way. Like, don't try these juice cleanses. Don't try, but you bring up a really good point, because you don't actually have to do all this testing. You don't have to like buy these crazy supplements. It really comes down to a couple of really basic things, like eating 300 to 400 calories every 3 to 4 hours to really stabilize your blood sugar and your hormones, making sure you're getting 25 grams of protein per meal, like reducing your chemical exposure, getting outside and making sure that you are getting sunlight, because that's really important. But if you want to work with me, so I do have some online courses, which if that would be where I start. I have a free email course that teaches you about your blockers. So you could just go to my either my website, lisahealthjoy.com, or you can go to my Instagram and click on the link. And then that would be a really great place to start, because then you can learn, do I have bile dysfunction? Do I have fatty liver dysfunction? Do I have an MTHFR dysfunction? And then I give you like some really basic things that you can start with. And then if you want to go deeper, then I have metabolism tune-up, which is like metabolically, I help you improve your metabolism in a step-by-step process through video education and principal meal plans. And then you also have the option if you want to like get a private consultation. So, but there's so much people can do just to like tune out the noise on social media is probably the number one thing, and like get back to basics. Like listen to your body and your intuition. I think a lot of people have forgotten that they actually have a lot of answers if they just like tuned into their body.
But thank you so much for putting out so much free resources for people, because I think like so many people on the internet, as you mentioned, like tune out the social media noise, and they often always just want to make money. So thank you so much for putting credible, like useful resources for people to try out first to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for everything you're doing and sharing the information and just offering so many good resources for people to learn more.
We're on the same page, because we're trying to get people to use better product to literally helping the liver.
Wow.
And then the whole thing is like, it's all connected. So that's why we're really hoping to bring on more experts like you to talk to our audience about, how do you keep your system healthy, basically, and maintain it.
Yeah, it's so great. It's exciting because people are going to start realizing they actually have like a lot of tools that they didn't realize that, it's available to them. They don't need, like, don't go the prescription route and start getting one prescription after another. And they just like, one creates more problems. It's a lot about nutrition and the nervous system.
Absolutely. Anything else you'd like to share?
We covered a lot. So yeah, I don't want to overwhelm. I know I can just sort of like fire hose information, but I love talking about it. So thank you for having me.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing everything. And then for everyone who's watching, be sure to follow Lisa. And then we have all the information in the post support, promoting this live. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.